So? Who do you know tonight, ladies and gentlemen? The echo is where in the back of the woods. Call him forth. Sean McIrewick, brief dragger, for the concern of Messrs. John Jameson and Son, rated 100 and thin per store 100 on this nightly quiz-quick walk of the 12 apostrophes, set by Jockett Mike Erwick. He misunderstruck and aimed for Oyo of number 3 of them and left his free natural riposts to 4 of them in their own fine artful disorder. 1. What, second to none, Mither Rector and Maximost Bridges Maker, was the first to rise taller through his bean's tail than the blue gum Bua Boa Babon or the giganteous Wellingtonia Sequoia, went nudie boots with trousers into a Lafayette when she was barely in her trickies, was well known to claud a conciliation cap onto the esker of his hooth, sports a Changanger's Albert solemnly over his Hollander's epulence, thought he weighed a new ton when there felled his first lap-apple, gave the heinousness of choice to every night betwixt yesterdicks and two Marys, had 7 successive coloured Saraban maids on the same big white drawing-room hearth-rug, is a Wilberforce to this hour at house as he was in Heather, pumped the Catholic war tree and shocked the Protestant boyne, killed his own hungry self in anger as a young man, found fodder for 5 when Allmarken Rose go flooded, with Irish tutores Cornish made easy, voucher of rotables, toll of the road, bred many-headed stepsons for one Lipiron totter, is too funny for a fish and has too much outside for an insect, like a heptagon crystal imprisms trues and false for us, is infinite swell in unfitting undiments. Once was he shovelled, and once was he arsoned, and once was he inundered, and she hung him out Bill Bailey, has a quadrant in his tile to tell Toller cad a clog it is, offers chances to long on, but stands up to leg before, found coal at the end of his harrow and moss roses behind the seams, made a fort out of his postern and wrote F-E-R-T on his buckler, is escape master in chief from all sorts of hounding places, if he out-howreds against barkers, to the shoulbred he acts whitely, was evacuated at the mere appearance of 3 germ huns and twice besieged by a sweep. From zoomorphology to omni-animalism he is brooched by the spin of a coin, towers, an Eddystone amid the lampless, casting swan beams on the deep, threatens thunder upon malefactors and sends whispers up Frau-Frau's frou-frous. When Duke Hookback Croak upsits his ass boozeworthies jeer and junket, but they booze him ooze and baz his az when he looks like Hunket Plunket. By so's and search a party on a lady of this city. Business, reading newspaper, smoking cigar, arranging tumblers on table, eating meals, pleasure, etc., etc. Pleasure, eating meals, arranging tumblers on table, smoking cigar, reading newspaper, business. Minerals, wash and brush up, local views, juju toffee, comic and birthdays cards. Those were the days and he was their hero. Pink sunset shower, red clay cloud, sorrow of Sahara, oxhide on iron, arraigned and attainted, listed and lighted, pleaded and proved, catches his check at Bank of Indgangt and endorses his doom at chapel exit, brain of the Franks, hand of the Christian, tongue of the North, commands to dinner and calls the bluff, has a block at Morgan's and a hattache all the afternoonch, plays Gahamarat when he's ernst but Mrs. Mousy when he's lustig, walked as far as the head where he sat in state as the rump, shows early English trace marks and a marigold window with mangilt lights, a myrioscope, 2 remarkable piscines and 3 well worth seeing ambries, arches all portculist and his nave dates from dots, is a horologe unstoppable and the bin of all bells, fuit, east and heret, and though he's mildew stand he's mouldy stoned, is a quercus in the forest but plain member for megalopolis, mountain mighty, Fon on Fleetfoot, plank in our platform, blank in our sculpturn. Hidal, in caracuts he is enumerated, hurled as an earl, he counts. Ship-shaped phrase of bug-looking words with a form like the easing moments of a graminophorus. To our dooms brought he law, our manoirs he made his veil off, was an overground to the underground and aqueduced for fiery throats. Sends boys in socks a cough a whooping when he lets forth his carbon oxide, and silk stockings show her shapings when he looses hose on hers. Stocks dry powder for the ill people and Pincon's pellets for all the pale. Gave his mundi foot to Mesarius, her pinch to Annalivia, that superfine pigtail to Ceresia Sirosia, and quid rides to Titius, Caius, and Sempronius. made the man who had no notion of shopkeepers feel he'd rather play the duke than play the gentleman, shot 2 queens and shook 3 cascals when he won his game of dwarfs, fumes inwards like a strombolist till he smokes at both ends. Man mote befire of him, womankind, pitad! Shows 1 white drift of snow among the gorse growth of his crown and a chaperon of repentance on that which shed gore. Paws and quays, triple bill, went by metro for the polis and then hoved by. To the finders, hail! Woe, you that seek! Whom filth had plenished, dearth devoured. Hawk is leading, Coco comes next. Emery tries for the flag. Can dance the O'Bruen's polar pass at Nuland to his own orchestrous accompaniment. Took place before the International Convention of Catholic Midwives and found stead before the Congress for the Study of Educational Calamities. Made a delicious entree and finishes off the course between sweets and savouries. Flouts for forecasts, flares for fines and the fun of the fray on the fairground. Cleared out 365 idols to set up 1 all-colossal for henwives hoping to have males. The flahula, the grasping one, the kindler of paschal fire. Forbids us our trespassers as we forget him. The phoenix be his pyre, the sinner as his sire. Piles big Pelium on little Osis like the pillars of Hercules. Has an eat up us complex and a drink the dregs kink. Worst meats for chumps and cow carlos for scullions. When he plies for our favour is very trolley ours. 2 psychic espousals and 3 desertions. Maybe matter of fact now, but was footer of maggot then. Cattermole Hill, ex-mountain of flesh, was reared up by stress and sank under strain. Take it up, dank it up, tells the tailor to his tout. In Totkas for a man, but bit a thimble for a maid. Blimp, blump. A dud letter, a sing-a-song a syllable. A byword, a sentence with surcease. While stands his can you see him frails shall fall. Was hatched at Selbridge, but ejaculated a brood. As it gan in the beginnings, so wound up in a battle of boss. Roderick, 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 oh, you've gone the way of the Danes. Variously catalogued, regularly regrouped. A bush boy's holiday, a quacker's mating, a winch's sand bath. The same homo heteris chicken loss egg as when soliae airily blew ye. Real detonation but false report. Spa mad but insane. Half a million via bogus census, but a no street houseman when Alfand. Is the handiest of all Andes and a most elegant spot to dump your hump. Hands his succession to the new Patricius but plumps phlegmatically for the bloody old centuries. Eats with doors opened and rots with gates closed. Some dub him Rothschild and more limn him Rockefeller. Shows he's fly to both demispheres but tries to cover up his tracers. 7 dovecotes who claim to have been Pigeonheim to this Homer. Smernion, Roebuck, Colonsray, Sea Point, Quayhealth, Ashtown, Ratheny. Independent of the lordship of Chamberlain, acknowledging the rule of Rome. We saw thy farm at useful prine. Domnall, Domnall. Reeks like Ilbelpais and looks like Iceland's ear. Lodged at quat places, lived through taut rains. Takes a zoom bath for his weekend and a wasser nap for his refreshment. After a good bout at Stuhlball, enjoys girafli girafla, what nevermore missed and Colombo found. Believes in every man his own gold keeper and in Africa for the full blacks. The arc of his drive was 40 full and his stumps were pulled at 80. Boasts him to the thick enthuse, the oldest creator in Ariania, and looks down on the Swiss family Coulsons whom he calls Les Nouvelles Roches. Though his heart, soul and spirit turn to far-off times, his love, faith and hope stick to futurism. Light leg-lifters sense him Soriantes from afar, while boor browbenders curse him Gromelans to his hindmost. Between Ulasses and Yeladst glimpse of even. The lug his peak has, the look his pile. Drinks thar and wodhar for his asthma, and eats the unperishable sow to stave off regular rack. The beggars cloak them reclined about his paddy stool, the whores winking him as they walk their side. On Christianmas at Advent Lodge, New Yealand, after a Lenti illness, the Roaverant Mr. Easterling of Pentecostitis, no followers by bequest, fanfare all private. Gone where glory waits him, Ball, bulletist. But not here yet, Maxwell, clerk. Commingst under articles but finished eborgis. From the vat on the beer through the burr in the dark to the bottle of the bone, is one and the highest, but raw re his root. filled fand of hackleberries, when as all was tuck and toss up for him as a youngster to fall full of hockenbetters wherein he had gauged the use of raisin. Adds ailments, dastulls, raps rustics, tams turmoil. Sas seed enough for assimilation, but sues skivvies on the sly. Learned to speak from hand to mouth till he could talk Irish with his eyes shut. Hacked his way through hick-hack-hawks, but hanged his help from their hereafters. Rialtos and his leg, bin and bowls, to say nothing a tulk of new coming. The gleam of the glow of the shine of the sun through the dearth of the dearth on the blush of the brick of the viled Vie of Barnholm has dust turned to brown. These died to tartan him, Grurut, Dulce, Bracken, Teasel, Fuller's Ash, Sundew and Cress. Long gone, but not forgotten. Stood his sharp assault of famine, but grew girther, girther, and girther. He has 24 or so cousins germinating in the United States of America, and a namesake with an initial difference in the once Kingdom of Poland. His first's a young rose, and his second's French-Egyptian, and his whole means a slump at Christie's. Fourth of his pierced part came the woman of his dreams, blood thicker than water last trade overseas. Bishop of Glentylook, Jarl of Hod. You and I are in him, surrendered by Brunbildens. Ellen's fleepult perhaps, but Huang Chang every time. He one was your of high big pipey boys, but fancy him as smoking fags his at time of life. Mount of Mish, Mel of Moy, had 2 cardinal ventures and 3 capital sinks. Has a peep in his pocket book and a packet boat in his keep. BVH, BLG, PPM, TDS, VBD, TCH, LON. Is breakfast, lunger, dinner and super. As the streets were paved with cold, he felt his toperary. Taught himself skating and learned how to fall. Distinctly dirty, but rather a dear. Hoveth chieftains everywhere, with murder. Ostbin Effendi, Sergei Padishaw. Biases too many, outpreums all his parasites. First of the Finnegans, Roy de Fanians. His tiara of scones was held unfillable till one Liam felled him in Westminster. Was struck out of his situm when he rode sourly to Damascus, and to our appalling predicament brought as plagues from Budapest. Put a match head on an aspen stalk and set the living afire. Speared the rod and spoiled the lightning. Married with cakes and repunct with pleasure. Till he was buried, how happy was he, and he made the welkins ring with "Up, macabre!" God at the top of the staircase, carrion on the mat of straw. The false hood of a spindler web chokes the cave mouth of his unsightliness, but the nestlings that liven his leaf screen sing him a lover of arbutis. We strike hands over his bloodied war sheet, but we are pledged entirely to his green mantle. Our friend, Vike Legal, our Swaran Foy, under the 4 stones by his streams who vanished the Wassalbul at the joy of shells. Mora and Laura had a hill of a high time looking down on his confusion till firm look in readiness. Forward spear and the wind foot of Kirrach strewed the lake mist of Lego over the last of his fields. We darkened for you, Vulturer, in the year of morning, but will fid heel to the dim twinklers when the streamy Morven light calls up the sunbeam. His striped pantaloons, his rather strange walk, hereditatius columna erecta, hagion chiton eraphon, nods a nap for the nonce but crows cheerio when they get economical, is a simultaneous equator of eliminated integras when 3 upon 1 is by inspection improper. Has the most conical hodpiece of Confucianist heronym, and that chutofuous chin-chin of his is like a footsie Congolo around Taishantiland. He's as globeful as a gasometer of lithium and luridity, and he was thrice 10 annular years before he wallowed round Ragiant Circos. The cabal stone at the coping of his cavern is a Canaan constant, but only an American could approximate the appropriosity of his at last's elongament. Sticklered rights and lefts at Battersdown in his hunt for the boar truth, but made his end with the modereds that came at him in Camlan Strait. A Hunable in exhaustive conflict, an Otho to return. Burning body to Eiger air on melting mountain in wooing wave. We go into him, sleepy children, we come out of him, strucklers for life. He divested to save from the Mrs. Drownings their rival queens, while Grimshaw, Brigshaw, and Rinshaw made off with his storing clothes. Taxed and rated, licensed and ranted. His 3-faced stone head was found on a white horse hill, and the print of his Costellas feet is seen in the goat's grass circle. Pull the blind, toll the deaf, and call dumb, lame, and hurty. Miraculon, monstruously. Led the uploads at the creation, and hissed a snake charmer off her stays. Hounded became hunter, hunter became fox. Harrier, Marrier, Terrier, Tav. Olaf the Oxman, Thorker the Terrible. You feel he is Vespasian, yet you think of him as Aurelius. Wogamore, traitor Tory, socialist, commonizer. Made a summer assault on our shores, and Begiddy got his sands full. First he shot down Raglan Road, and then he tore up Marlborough Place. Cromlech Height and Cromwell Hill were his far-famed feet rests when our lurch as lout let free into the lubar he loved. Marshalled his ward moats and delimited the main. Netted before nibbling, can scarce turn a scale, but, grossed after meals, weighs a town in himself. Banba prayed for his conversion. Berla missed that grand old voice. A colossus among cabbages, the Meleron citron of fruits. Larger than life, doughtier than death. Grand Turco, Orej Forment. Luxemburger, Leperlin, the sparkle of his genial fancy, the depth of his calm sagacity, the clearness of his spotless honour, the flow of his boundless benevolence. Our family furbear, our tribal turnpike. Quarry was he invincibled, and Kerr was he burked. Partitioned Erskalholm, united Irishmen. He took a svig at his own mather, but she tasted a bit gorky, and as for the salmon he was coming up in him all life long. Come, Eiludich, Heckleberry and Sawyer thee, Warden. Silent as the bee in honey, stark as the breath on Hauk. Costello, Kinsella, Mahoney, Moran, though you rope Amric, your home ruler is Dan. Figure right, he is hoisted by the scurve of his shaggy neck. Figure left, he is rationed in isobaric patties among the crew. One asks, was he poisoned? One thinks, how much did he leave? Ex-gardener, Riesenkberger, fitted up with planturous existences, would make rosiu greedy, mites, little hoes. Tot sheets and scuppers awash, but the oil silk mac lipsterpet mix his aquascutum. The enjoyment he took in K women, the employment he gave to G men, sponsor to a squad of piercers, allied to a host of rallies, against lightning, explosion, fire, earthquake, flood, whirlwind, burglary, third party, rot, loss of cash, loss of credit, impact of vehicles. Can rant as grave as oxtail soup and chat as gay as a Porto flippant, is unhesitant in his unionism and yet a bigoted nationalist. Sylvia Cola is shy of him, Metrosenhosens knows the joke, shows the sinews of peace in his chest o' wars. Fief of home, 939 years of copyhold, is aldays open for Polmapolity's sake when he's not sometimes closed for the love of Janus. Sucks life's elixir from the petty pickles of the Jewess and rules in sulks if any popling runs down the Huguenots. Bumaport, Wellesley, Ubermichal Blocher and Supercharger, Monsieur de Croo, Mr. Mudson, Master Gardener. To one he's just punch and judex, to another full of beans and brehunts. Hallucination, Kochman, ectoplasm. Passed for Baba Black Sheep till he grew white woolly. Was dramatized by Macmilligan's daughter and put to music by one shoebard. All Fitzpatricks in his Emirate remember him. The boys of Wetford hail him Babu, identified himself with borough tribute and was shanked publicly to Brigstall. Was given the light in Dre Orcafts and etumbled in 3 plexes. His likeness is in terraquit, and he giveth rest to the rainbowed. Liberality, fraternity, and quality. His reverse makes a virtue of necessity, while his obverse mars a mother by invention. Buskilk his gunwale, and he's the second imperial. Untie points, unhook tinters, and he's lath and plaster. Calls upon all thing when he falls to appeal to each of us. Byzadins, Ardri, Conxima, Rex Regulorum, stood into D-mouth, then backed broadside on Balacliva. Either Eldorado or Ultimate Thul. A kraal of 4 feud fires, a crawl of 5 pubs. Laid out lashings of laveries to hunt down his family ancestors, and then pled double trouble or quick quits to hush the buckers up. Threw peblets for luck over one sodden shoulder, and dragooned pureplaids armed up to their teeth. Peptas Gaudio Grambanus, grim as Potter the Grave. Ace of Arts, Deuce of Damimons, Trouble of Clubs, Fear of Spates. Cumbrum, cumbrum. Twinaisian Urses for a drum, but tre to uno tips the scale. Reeled the title role opposite a brace of girdles in silver on the screen, but was sequenced from the set as crookback by the evermore titulars Rick, Dave, and Barry. He can get on as early as the 22nd of Mars, but occasionally he doesn't come off before Virginta Quinque Germinal. His Indian name is Hapopusi Subjibwe, and his number in Arithmosphy is the Stars of the Plow. Took weapon in the province of the Pike and let fling his line on Ilwick. Moves in vicious circles, yet remews the same. The drain rats bless his offals while the park birds curse his floodlights. Portobello, Equaducta, Therococta, Percorello. He pours into the soft-clad Shelbourne the hard cash earned in Watling Street. His birth proved accidental shows his death its grave mistake. brought us giant ivy from the land of Yonkers, and bewithered Apostolopolis with the gale of his gall. Well satisfied that soft, youthful, bright, matchless girls should bosom into fine, silk-clad, joyous, blooming young women, is not so pleased that heavy, swarsome, strong-smelling, irregular-shaped men should blot out active, handsome, well-formed, frank-eyed boys. Herald Harryfar, Arulf the Wheat, husband your aunt and endow your nepos. Hearken but hush it, screen him and see. Time is an archbishopric, time was a tradesman's entrance. Beckburn brooked with wath, scale scarred by scowl. His rainfall is a couple of knee-highs, while his minced grass temperature marked 3 in the shade. Is the melting pot of snow and the bubbling place of alcohol. Has a tussle with the trolls and then does himself justice. Hinted at in the eschatological chapters of Humphrey's Justice of the JPs and hunted for by Theban recensors who sniff there's something behind the bug of the deaf. The king was in his corner while milking Mark Murray. The queen was steep in armbour, feeling fain and furry. The maids was midst the hawthorns, shoeing up their hose. Out pimps the back guards, pump, and pump gun they goes. To all his foretellers he reared a stone, and for all his comforters he planted a tree. 40 acres, 60 miles, white stripe, red stripe, washes his fleet in Anachor water. Who missed a porter, so what shall he do? For he wanted to sit for Pimlico, but they've caught him to stand up for Sue. Dutch Lord, overawes us. Headmount, king and martyr, Dunstung in the yeast, Peter le Porin Petrin, Birth the Great by the exchange. He hastens towards dame's troth and wedding hand like the Prince of Orange in Nassau, while he has Trinity left behind him like bull-beggar Bill the Bostonley. Brow of a hazelwood, pool in the dark, changes blowwicks into bullocks and a well of Artesia into a bird of Arabia. The handwriting on his face wall, the cryptoconchoid stomata in his exprosions. His birth spot lies behind the Hierospont, and his burial plot in the pleasant little field. Is the yildest kiosk in the peninsula and the unguessed hostel in St. Scholarland. Walked many hundreds and many score miles of streets and lit thousands in one night lights in hectares of windows. His great wide cloak lies on 15 acres and his little white horse decks by dozens our doors. O sorrow the sail and woe the rudder that were set for merry Quay! His sons the Huns, his darters the Tartars, are plenty here today, who repulsed from his burst the bumbolts of Ostenton and falchioned each flash Downsaduck in the deep. A personal problem, a locative enigma, upright one, vehicle of arcanization in the field, lying chap, flood supplier of siliculation through Ebliness, a part of the whole as a port for a whale. Dear Hewitt Costello, a query, we're daylighted with our outing and are looking backwards to unearly summers, from rhododendrons. Is above the seed fruit level and outside the leguminiferous zone, when older links lock older hearts than hill resembles she. Can be built with glue and clippings, scrawled or voided on a buttress. The Night Express sings his story, the song of sparrow notes on his stave of wires. He crawls with lice, he swarms with saggarts, is as quiet as a mursk, but can be noisy as a sonagog. Was Dillman when his date was palmy, and Mudlin when his nut was cracked. Suck up the seas, lep laud at ease, one lip on his lap, and one cushlin his crease. His porter has a mighty grasp, and his Baxter's the bone of broad white. As far as the wind dries and rain eats, and sun turns and water bounds, he is exalted and depressed, assembled and asundered. Go away, we are deluded. Come back, we are disgusted. Board the Ostrov, leapt the Inferus, swam the marble and fleur the moil, like fat like tallow, of greasefulness, yea, of dripping greasefulness. Did not say to the old, did not say to the scorbutic. He has founded a house, Uru, a house he has founded to which he has assigned its fate. Bears a raven gulant on a fischled duiv, roused the halo off his varlet when he appeared to his she-cook as haycock, emmet, boro, toro, ostrich, mangy, and skunk. Pressed the beer of eld age out of the nettles of rashness. Put a roof on the lodge for him and a cook in his pot, pro homo. Was Dapifer, then Panzersinser, then Hortifex Magnus. The topes that tippled on him, the types that toppled off him. Still starts our hares, yet gates our goat. Pocket book, packet boat, Gapman gun run, the light of other days, dire, dreary darkness. Our awful dad, Timur of Torture. Puzzling, startling, shocking, nay, perturbing. Went puffing from Kingsbrug to new customs, doffing the gibbous off him to every breach of all size. With pa's new heft and papa's new helve, he's papa's old cutlass, papa left us. When young-headed, old-shouldered, and middleish neck aged about. Collar herring every daily, turgid tarpon overnight. See Lorion the chameleon that changed endocrine history by loiving his loaf with 40 bannocks. She drove him deaf till he driv her blind up. The pigeons doves he perchin all over him one day on Basley Bridge, and the ravens dove be pitching their dark nets after him the next night behind Konigstein's arbour. Trumph of the rep, comf of the priv, prosp of the pub. His head would its ideal if his feet are bally clay. He crashed in the hollow of the park, trees down, as he soared in the vagoom of the phoenix, stones up. Looks like a multane bulter and sounds like a rude word. The moon tian view, some lumen pale round a lamp of succor in boiling water. 3 shots of putty at a blup saddle, made up to Miss McCormick ne LeCarthy, who made off with Darley Dermot, swank and swarthy. Once diamond cut garnet, now damn it cuts grony. You might find him at the Florence, but watch out for him in Wynn's Hotel. There's his bow and where's his leaker, and here lays his bequiet hearse, deep. Swed Albioni, likeliest villain of the place. Henry Canterell, Cochrane, Ego Tasters, Limited. We take our tays and freeze our fleas round Saturn's mounted foot. Built the Lund's Kirk and destroyed the church's land. Who guess his title grabs his deeds. Fletch and Pritis, Fash and Chaps. Artful Duke of Wiley-Sly. Hugglebelly's Von Irel. Cook Calicac. Heard in camera and excruciated. Bone when with benches billeted. Ban if buckshot back-shattered. Heaven-gendered, chaos-footed, earthborn. His father presumptively plodded deep on overtime, and his mother, as all events, must have travailed her fair share. A footprint on the megacene, hetman unhorsed by searing sand, honorary captain of the extemporized fire brigade, reported to be friendly with the police. The door is still open. The old stock collar is coming back. Not forgetting the time you laughed at Elder Charterhouse's duck-white pants and the way you said the whole township can see his hairy legs. By stealth of a curse, her alberntress abaft his nape she hung. When his kettle became a hearth scoldus, our thirstyites set their lymphiampher. His year letter concocted by master hands of assays, his hallmark imposed by the standard of wrought plate. A pair of pectorals and a triple screen to get a wind up. Lights his pipe with a rosin tree and hires a tow horse to haul his shoes. Cures slavery's scurvy, breaks baron's boils. Culled to sell Polosh and was found later in the bedroom. Has his seat of justice, his house of mercy, his cornucopias and his stacks of rye. Prospector, he had a rook sacked. Retrospector, he holds the Hulpin stake. Won the freedom of New York for the mind of Jugo slaves. Acts active, peddles in passivism, and is a gorgon of self-righteousness. Pours a laugh's worth of his ill formation over a larm's worth of salt. Half heard the single maiden speech Lebel spun to her grand mount and hold a lifetime by his ein fireside, wondering was it Hebrew set to hymnal tones or the quicksilver song of quaternions. His troubles may be over, but his doubles have still to come. The lobster pot that crabbed our keel, the garden pet that spoiled our squeezed peas. He stands in a lovely park. Sea is not far. Importunate towns of X, Y, and Z are easily overreached. Is an excrescence to civilized humanity, and but a wart on Europe. Wanna made sing signs to sound sense, and yet he wanna get all his flesh new made mots truly plural and plausible. Has excessively large rings, and is uncustomarily perfumed. Lusteth ath he listeth the clay withpe of a Themis. Is a prince of the Fingalian in a Hiberniad of hoolies. Has a Hodge to weary him, and a Frenchy to curry him, and a Brabanson for his beater, and a Fritz at his switch. Was waylaid of a Parker and beshorten by a Buckley. Kicks lintels when he's copy and casts Jacob's arrowroots, dime after dime, to poor wife strays on the parish. Reads the charms of H.C. Anderson, all the wakes of his evening, and the crimes of Ivan the Terrible every strong day morn. Soaps you soft to your face and slaps himself when he's baddened. Owns the bulgiest bung barrel that ever was tip-tapped in the previs of Mullinger Inn. Was born with a new silver tongue in his mouth and went round the coast of iron with his left hand to the scene. Raised but 2 fingers and yet smelt it would day. For whom it is easier to found a sea in Eblana than for I or you to find a double tie in Damsterdamp. To live with whom is a life mayor and to know whom is a liberal education. Was dipped in hoily olives and christened in St. O'Toole's. Hears cricket on the earth but annoys the life out of predicants. Still turns the dirk's ear of Darius to the now thoroughly infuriated one of God. Made man with just that jerk and minted money mong many. Looks a 6 a cup pudding when he's come home sweet home. Has come through all the eras of live's adventure from moonshine and champagne down to clouts and bottled porter. Willem the First, Heinrich the Elfth, Charles the Second, Richard the Third. If a mandrake shrieked to convultures, at last surviving his birth, the wibduck will wail bitterly over the rotter's resurrection. Loses weight in the moonnight, but girds girder by the sundawn. With one touch of nature set a veiled world agrin, and wint within a sheet of tissue paper of the option of 3 gowls. Who could see at one blick a salmon taken with a lance, hunters pursuing a doe, a swallow ship in full sail, a white robe lifting a host, faced flappery like old King Knut, and turned his back like Cincinnatus, is a far and more far, and a hur father naked bucker in villas old as new, squats a quart and cracks a quint when it's flagging in town and on haven, blows whiskery around his summit, but stays stout upon his footles, stutters 'fore he falls and goes mad entirely when he's waked, is Tim to the pearly morn and tomb to the morning night. And he had the best bun-bricked bricks and rolled Babylon, for his pitching place he'd be lost for the want of his one wabblin' wall? Answer. Finn McCool. 2. Does your mutter know your Mike? Answer. When I turn me optics from such urban prospects, 'tis my filial's bosom doth behold with pride that pontificator and circumvallator, with his damned knight garrulous slipped by his side. Anne alive, the lisp of her, 'twould Grig mountains whisper her, and the bergs of Iceland melt in waves of fire, and her spoon me spondies, and her dirkle me undenies, make the rageous ocean kneel and quaff a liar. If Dan's Dane, Anne's dirty, if he's plain she's purty, if he's fain she's flirty, with her auburnt streams, and her coy cajoleries, and her dabbling drolleries, for to rouse his rudder up, or to drench his dreams. If hot Hammurabi or cowled Ecclesiastes could espy her pranklings, they'd burst bounds agin, and renounce their ruings, and denounce their doings, for river and iver and a night. Amen. 3. Which title is the true-to-type model in lieu for that tick-for-tick thatchment painted with one darkness, where a snake is under clover, and birds a-prowl are in the rookeries, and a Magadha went to Monkey's house, and a river-pard was spotted, which is not witchcraft Werert, not Ulsterhelm Dracelus, not Harrodsby Grocer, not Fattened Can Vintner, not Houseboat and Hive, not Knox Attabel, not O'Phanex Colprince, not One Squire Rumiak, not Eblon Downs, not Le Desert Le Mion, not Benjamin's Lay, not Tholomew's Waddington, not Antwerp, not Musken, not Corey's, not Wares, not the Arch, not the Smug, not the Dutch House, not the Uval, nothing grand, nothing splendid, Grahot or Splitel, neither Eret est Eret, nor non mice sed Lucifero? Answer. Thine obesity, O civilian, hits the felicitude of our orb. 4. What Irish capital city, a day, of 2 syllables and 6 letters, with a Celtic origin and a newness end, dust, can boast of having A. The most extensive public park in the world, B. The most expensive brewing industry in the world, C. The most expansive peopling thoroughfare in the world, D. The most philohippoc population in the world, and harmonise your ABC'd responses? Answer. A. Delphus. And when you'll hear the gold hammers of my heart, my floxy lass, bing-banging again the ribs of your resistance and the tinderbolts of my rivers working to your distraction, you'll be shivering with all your dinful sobs when we'll go riding a Copacarly, you with your orange garland and me with my coney cordial, down the graceways of rollicking into the waters of wedded life. B. And sure, where can you have such good old chimes anywhere, and leave you, as on the mash, and how 'tis I would be engaging you with my plovery soft accents, and descanting up over the scene beyonder me of your loose vines in their harafal, with them 2 loving loofs braceleting the slims of your ankles, and your mouth's flower rose, and sinking after the soapstone of silvery speech. C. Nublid. Isha, why wouldn't we be happy, Avernine? On the Mills's money, he'll soon be leaving you, as soon as I've my own brook-lined Georgian mansion's lawn to recruit upon by Dr. Cheek's special orders, and my copper's panful of soybeans, and Irish in my east hand, and a James's Gate in my west, after all the arrears and erroribus of comparative embottled history, and your good self churning over the new-leaved butter. More power to you, the choicest and the cheapest from Atlanta to Orkney, while I'll be drowsing in the garden. D. Dalway. I hooked my thoroughgoing trotty the first down Spanish place. Mayo I make, tuam I take, Slick or sleek, but Galway's grace. Holy eel and sainted salmon, chucking chub and ducking dace. Rod iron's not your equal, says she, lepping half the lane. ABCD. A bell on Shaldor steep bell, und bell go masplon pristmos spiepel, shand praise gon nes ar fest mon nielpel, ar prem shandiepen, pe name mui fipins, mui ne non equal. 5. All the slags of low lad would written smoty flesks, imtout old bands, milk vicious gate, scruff Jack and Jill's fra till anding, smooth pick waste papish pastures, inside man outsiders angel, sprink dirted water around village, newsies, toboggan and swears, plain general kept, louden on the kirk peel, foot treats given to malifieds, outshriek help, help, nor his hair ifter buglars, might underhold 3 barnets, puts polish crotty boats, net cover all fire glims, serves time till boss, grindstone his knives is, fullest boarded, lewd man of the method of godliness. Perchance he news and thans seats in the spore wagon, XWCA on ZWCU, doorsteps limited, or bay windows bros swabber preferred. Walther Closeters and Sons, with the H.A. Chimneys' company to not scrave, will, on advices, be bacon or stable hand, must be gripe full standingly, ours is language. Jublander or North Quain bigger preferred, all duties, kind rights, family feud, outings fived, may get ernst, no get combich, profusional drink lords to please abstain, he is fatherlow soundiged in mood mind pursuing, but El Connerman, nay, that must he isn't? Answer. Poor old Joe. 6. What means the saloon slogan, someone in the house sweep, Dinah? Answer. Tuk. Glory be to the sales of cloth now, and I have the beeswax, the bringing in all the clob of the porks to us, how I thought I knew his stain on the floor. If me asking Can could speak, and he called me by me midden name, Tick. I am your honeysucker, the bay, and who broke the dandle ass, and who's seen the black coal and jam for tomorrow's big picnic. I hope it'll poor price the climate of all Ireland. I heard the grackles and I skimming the crock on all your sandwiches, 5p per leg per drake. And who ate the last of the goose bellies that was moulding from mealest years, and who left that there, and who put that here, and who let the Kilkenny stale the chump? And who was it, you was it, popped the pot in the yard, and what in the name of sin lucre you rubbing the side of the floor of the lobby with? Shut! We have a plate full? 7. Who are those component partners of our society? The doorboy, the cleaner, the soldier, the crook, the squeezer, the lounger, the kerman, the turabout, the mushroom sniffer, the bleak-a-blue tramp, the fun-powther plother, the creastyman's boxer, from their Praise Selas and Donnybrook Prater and Roebuck's Campus and the Ager around town and Crumglin's grassy but Kimmager's champ and Ashtown fields and Cabra fields and Finglas fields and Santry fields and the fields of Rahony and their fails and Baldoigle to them who are latecomers all the years round by anticipation, or the porters of the passions in virtue of retro-ratiocination and, contributing their confligent controversies of differentiation, unify their voxes in a vote of vaticination, who crunch the crusts of comfort due to depredation, drain the mead for misery to incur intoxication, condone every evil by practical justification, and condemn any good to its own gratification, who are ruled, roped, duped, and driven by those Newman diamonds, the fee-keepers at their laws, nightly consternation, fortnightly fornication, monthly misericordation, and omniannual recreation, Doyles when they deliberate, but Sullivans when they are swartzed, Matey, Teddy, Simon, Jorn, Peter, Andy, Barty, Philly, Jamesy Moore and Tom, Matt, and Jakes McCarthy? Answer. The Morpheos. 8. And how were your Maggies? Answer. They war loving, they love laughing, they laugh weeping, they weep smelling, they smell smiling, they smile hating, they hate thinking, they think feeling, they feel tempting, they tempt daring, they dare waiting, they wait taking, they take thanking, they thank seeking, as born forlorn in lore of love, to live and wive by wile and rile, by rule of ruse, wreathed rose, and holes hold home. Yet cometh elope year, coach and four, sweet peck at my heart picks one man more. 9. Now, to be on anew and basking again in the panorama of all floors of speech. If a human being duly fatigued by his deity in the sooty, having plenty of time on his gouty hands and vacance of space at his sleepish feet, and as hapless behind the dreams of accuracy as any Camelot prince of Denmark, were at this actual, future, preteriting instant, in the states of suspensive examination, accorded, throughout the eye of a noodle, with an ear-sighted view of old Copenhagen, with all the ingredient and egrugiant whites and ways to which, in the curse of his persistence, the course of his Tory will had been having recourses, the reverberation of nut-cracking awes, the reconjugation of node-binding eyes, the redissolutingness of mind-mouldered ease, and the thereby hang of the whole of it, could such a nun, whilst even led cum silencers to come lie with hers, and till intempestuous knocks should catch the gallacry and spot Lucan's done, by hold at ones what is main and why it is twain, how one once meets melts in t'other one's poignings, the sap rising, the fulls falling, the nymph now nihilent round the girly head so becoming, the restless in the womb, all the rivals to Ulcie. Shake again, oh disaster! Shake a loose, ah how stirring! But Hang's got a bit of horse's nose, and Jeff's got the signs of ham round his mouth, and the bow that spun beautiful pails as it pulls. What roseroot and outrageous grows gelb and green? Blew out the end of it! Violets died! Then what would that fargazer seem self to seem seeming of? Deem it all? Answer. A kaleido escape. 10. What bitters love but yearning? What sour love much but a breath burning till she that draws do the smoke return? Answer. I know, Pepette, of course, dear, but listen, precious. Thanks, pet, those are lovely. Piternette, delicious. But mind the wind, sweet. What exquisite hands you have, you angel, if you didn't know your nails. Isn't it a wonder you're not ashamed of me, you pig, you perfect little pigeline? I'll nudge you in a minute. I bet you use her best Parisian smear off her vanity table to make them look so rose-top, glow-stop, no-stop. I know her. Slight me, would she? For every got I care. 3 creamings a day, the first during her shower, and wipe off with tissue. Then after clean-up, and of course before retiring. Be me shawl, when I think of that espos of a clan Kirby, the food brawler, of the Sociationist party with his black-leaded chest. Hello, Pendergast! That you, Innkeeper, and all his 14 other fullback maulers, or hurling stars, or whatever the dagos they are, baiting at my Lord Ornery's, just because they won the egg and spoon there so overly provincial at Baldur. My Eilish accent he seed makes his admiration. He is seeking an opening and means to be first with me as his belle alliance. And tu mus nu ple celoso. Sosa du todas. Such is Spanish. Stoop a little closer, Filse. Delightsome simply, like Jolio and Romeon. I haven't felt so Turkish for ages and ages. Minds me of Squishios, the chocolate with the soul. Extraordinary. Why, what are they all? The mucky lot of them only? Sht! I wouldn't pay 3 hairpins for them. Pept. That's right. Hold it steady. Leg me pull. Pooh. Come big to Iran. Pooh. What are you nudging for? No, I just thought you were. Listen, loveliest. Of course it was too kind of you, miser, to remember my size in stockings. My often expressed wish when you are wondering about my trossiers, and before I forget it, don't forget, in your extensions to my personality, when knotting my remembrancity, Shuik will be trotting back with red heels at the end of the moon, but look what the fool bought, cabbage head, and, as I shall answer to gracious heaven, I'll always and always remind of snappy new Gerters, me being always the one for charms, with my very best and proud and gloving, even if he was to be vermilion miles my youth to live on, the rubber end Mr. Pilkington, the Quonian fleshmonger Mother Brown solicited me for unlawful converse with her mug of October. A pot's on it, creaking around at his old shank's axle like a crusty old cornquake. Airman, waterweg, terrier, blazer. I'm fine, thanks ever. Ha! Oh, mind you, poo tickly. Shall I pour him in, Momo? Mom. Funny spot to have a thinky. I'm terribly sorry, I swear to you I am. May you never see me in my birthday pelt sin so tutu, and that her blanchest mangus may rot leprous off her whatever winking maggies. I'll bet by your cut you go flirting after with all the glass on her and the jumps in her stoneware. I suspected she was. Sink her. May they fire her for a barren ewe. So she says, "Tay for thee?" Well, I saith, angst so much, and desired she might not take it amiss if I esteemed her but an odd. If I did ate tough turf, I'm not a missy. Of course I know, pettest, you're so learningful and considerate in yourself, so friend of vegetables, you long cold cat, you. Please by acquiescer to make my acquaintance. Codling, snakelet, iciclist. My diaper has more life to it. Who drowned you in drears, man? Or are you pale ale with ink? Did a weep get past the gates of your pride? My tread on the clover, sweetness? Yes, the buttercups told me. Hug me, damn it all, and I'll kiss you back to life, my peachest. I mean to make you suffer, meddler, and I don't care this fig for contempt of courting. That I chid you, sweet sir? You know I'm tender by my eye. Can't you read by dazzling ones through me true? Bite my laughters, drink my tears. Pour into me, volumes, spell me stark and spill me swooning. I just don't care what my thwarters think. Transname me loveliness, now and hear me for all times. I'd risk a policeman passing by, McGrath or even that beggar of a boots at the post. The flame? Oh, pardon. That was what? Did you speak stuff? More postries from Shakespeare's with glycorial music or ejaculation from the garden of the soul? Of I be libe in the immoralities? Oh, you mean the strangle for love and the survival of the prettiest? Yep, we open hap causeries in the home, and once upon a week I improve on myself. I'm so keen on that new free woman with novel inside. I'm always as tickled as can be over man in a surplus by the lady who pays the rates. But I'm as pious as possible. Let's root out Brimstoker and give him the thrall of our lives. It's Dracula's night out. For creep's sake, don't make a flush. Draw the shades, curfew, and I'll beat any son of monk to love. Holy bug, how my highness would jump to make you flame your halva bannon in twos when I'd run my burning torchlight through. To adore me there and then cease to be? Whatever for, Blossoms? Your hermijig, if you had one. If I am laughing with you? No, lovingest, I'm not so dying to take my rise out of you, adored. Not in the very least. True as God made my mammal hip-length modesty coat mother. It's only because the ricin is I'm only any girl, you lovely fellow of my dreams. And because old somebody is not a roundabout, my trysting of the tulip eyes, like that puff-pape bucking Deveron assoiling us behinds. What a nerve! He thinks that's what the Vespers for. How vain's that hope in cleric's heart, who still pursues the adult rose art. Cocksure that rusty gown of his will make fair Sue forget his phiz. Tame Schwips. Blessed Mograte bosses, I hope they threw away the mould or else we'll have Balshausers and Sordom Applers with their medical associations all over the place. But hold hard till I've got my latchkey vote and I'll teach him when to wear what woman collars. On account of the gloss of the glason, Hazelwood Robbie's Isabeau Bell. And because, you pluckless lankaloot, I hate the very thought of you, and because, dearling, of course, adorest. I was always meant for an engineer from the French college to be husband. Nom de engine. When we do and contract with Incho Tincho Solver when you are married to reading and writing, which please business now won't be long, for he's loopy on me and I'm so leapy like since the day he carried me from the boat, my saviour of Eros, to the beach, and I left on his shoulder one fair hair to guide hand and mind to its softness. Ever so sorry. I beg your pardon. I was listening to every treasuried word I said fell from my dear Mott's tongue. Otherwise, how could I see what you were thinking of, our granny? Only I wondered if I threw out my shaving water. Anyway, here's my arm, pullet neck. Gracefully yours. Move your mouth towards mine. More, preciousest. More on more. To please me, treasure. Don't be I'm not going to. Shh, nothing. A crickery somewhere. Bye-bye, I'm fly. Here, Pippi. Under the limes. You know Big Tree are all against Gravestone. The hiss's tendency. Gorndon demand. So chip chirp chirrup, Siglo, for the lug amigo, the little pastor. I go you before, so, and you're at my apron stage. Shy is him, Dovey? Must forget there's an audience. I have been lost, angel. Cuddle, ye devil ye. It's our toot-a-toot. Here, sensation. Let them, their whole four courtships. Let them. Big Ball in his boozer's 11 makes 12 territorials. The old sots hold at once wide streets to commission their nuisance in. At the Mitchells versus Nichols, Ave Selve Aquavales, and my waiting 20 classbirds sitting on their stiles. Let me finger their eurythmic, and you'll see if I'm self-thought. They're all of them out to please. Wait! In the name of... and all the holly, and some the missile and it St. Yves. Whoost! There's Ada, Bet, Celia, Delia, Anna, Freta, Gilda, Hilda, Eta, Jess, Catty, Lou. They make me cough as sure as I read them. Mina, Nipa, Opsy, Paul, Queenie, Ruth, Saucy, Trix, Una, Vela, Wanda, Xenia, Yiba, Zulma, Phoebe, Thelma. And me! The reformatory boys is going in for the church, so we've all come feast like the group suppers and caught lip solution from anti-pravidance under penances for mortal sins. When their bride was married, all my bells began to ting. A ring, a rose a ring. Then everyone will hear of it, whose wishes is the farther to my thoughts. But I'll plant them a poser for their nomenclator, when they're out with the Daners doing chaperone mall. Bright pigeons all over the world will fly with my mistletoe message round their love-ribboned necks and a crumb of my cake for each chasta diva. We keeps all in sundry papers, in the Amor light. Oh, my darling. No, I swear to you by Philsborough Church Dome and St. Andre's Undershift, by all I hold secret from my world and in my underworld of nighties and naughties and all the under-wonder-worlds. Close your, not must look. Now open, pet, your lips, pipette. Like I used my sweet parted lips abus with Dan Holohan of facetious memory taught me after the flannel dance with the proof of love up Smock Alley the first night he smelled powder and I coloured beneath my fan. Pipetta mia, when you learned me the linguo to melt. Who would have ears like ours, the black-haired? Do you like that, silenzioso? Are you enjoying this same little me, my life, my love? Why do you like my wisping? Is it not divinely delicious? But isn't it bad for you? Missy, tell me till my thrill me comes. I will not break the seal. I am enjoying it still. I swear I am. Why do you prefer it in these dark nets, if I may ask, my sweetikins? Shh. Long ears is flying. No, sweetest. Why would that annoy me? But don't. You want to be well slapped for that. Your delighted lips, love, be careful. Mind my dove-tined dress above all. It's golded Sylvie, the newest sex tones with princess effect. For Rutland Blues got out of passion. So, my precious. Oh, I can see the cost. Char. Don't tell me. Why, the boy in Sheep's Lane knows that. If I sell whose, dears? Was I sold here, tears? You mean those conversation lozenges? How awful! The bold shame of me. I wouldn't, chickens. Not for all the Juliets in the twinkly way. I could snap them when I see them winking at me in bed. I did so, my intended, or was going to, or thinking of. Shush. Don't start like that, you wretch. I thought ye knew all and more, ye octher, to explic to ones the significat of their ex-systems with your new Neverlone lid. It's only another queer fish or other in Brinbrow's damned old trotterous river again. Go the witch goths bless us and spare her, and give us rest from the boso. Excuse me for swearing, love. I swear to the Soros hymns on their trons of Uyen I didn't mean to by this Alpen armlet. Did you really never in all our Cantalang lives speak clothes to a girl's before? No? Not even to the charmer maid? How marvellous! Of course I believe you, my own dear doting last, when you tell me, as I'd live to. Oh, I'd love to. Liss, I must whiss. Never that ever, or I can remember dear streaming faces, you may go through me. Never in all my whole white life of my matchless pair, or ever for bitter be the fruit of this hour. With my whiteness I thee woo, and bind my silk breasts thee I bound. Always, amore and more, till always thou lovest. Shush. So long as the locksmith laughs. (11) If you met on the bench a poor exiled from Ailing, when the tune of his trimble shook shimmy on shin, while his contrary raged in the week of his wailing, like a ruggulent pugulent lion o' lin, if he maundered in misliness, planning his plight, or played fox and lice, pricking and dropping hips' teeth, or wringing his handcuffs for peace, the blind writer, playing deaf and dumb nostrums for thumbthinks to earth, if he wept while he leapt and guffawed quith a quemper, made cold blood a blue Monday, and no bones without fletch, taking kiss, cake, or kick with a suck, sigh or simper, a divil to larn and a dibble to lech. If the fain shinner pegged you to shave his immartial, wee skill mustard shull with his hoo-da-doo, broking wind that to whiles, woe made sin he was partial. We don't think, Jones, we'd care to this evening, would you? Answer. No, blank ye! So you think I have impulsivism? Did they tell you I am one of the 46ths? And I suppose you heard I had a wag on my ears. And I suppose they told you too that my role of life is not natural? But before proceeding to conclusively confute this begging question, it would be far fitter for you, if you dare, to hesitate to consult with and consequentially attempt at my disposal of the same dime cash problem elsewhere, naturalistically of course, from the blink point of so eminent a spatialist. From it you will here notice, shot, upon my for the first remarking you that the sophology of Bitchson, while driven as under by a purely dime urge, is not without his cash characteristics, borrowed for its nonce ends from the fiery good mother Misfortune, who the last time we had the pleasure we have had our little recarche brush with. What, shot? And as I further could have told you, as brisk as your DBC behavioristically pilot with a coat of homoid icing, which is in reality only a done by chance ridiculization of the woo and where's hairs theorics of Weinstein, to put it all the more plumpsily. The speech form is a mere surrogate, whilst the quality and tality, I shall explex what you ought to mean by this with its proper when and where and why and how in the subsequent sentence, are alternativo mentally harrogate and arrogate, as the gates may be. Talus is a word often abused by many possums. I am working out a quantum theory about it, for it is really most tantalizing state of affairs. A possum may frequent you to say, "Have you been seeing much of Talus and Talus those times?" Optimately meaning, "Will you put up at 3 of Irish?" Or a lady-eater might perhaps have casualized as you tiptoed her a la sardine. Of your plates? Is Talus de Talus, the sword-swallower, who is on at the criterium the same Talus von Talus, the pin-crusher? No funk you! Who runs his duly mile? Or this is a perhaps cleaner example. At a recent post-vortex piece in fustigation of a determinized case of chronic spinosis, an extension lecturer on the ague who out of matter of form was trying his Caesars, doctors het ublieft, borrowed the question, "Why is which such men's Talus qualis?" To whom, as a fatter of Macht, Dr. Gedunkje of Stoutgirth, who was wiping his whistle, tersely retorted, "Why thou beast one zoom of a whirl!" Talus and Talus originally mean the same thing. Its qualis. Professor Louis Breuler, though as I shall promptly prove his whole account of the Sennacherib as distinct from the Schalmenser sanitational reforms and of the Mr. Skekel's and Dr. Hyde's problem in the same connection differs toto quello from the fruit of my own investigations, though the reason I went to Jericho must remain for certain reasons a political secret. Especially as I shall shortly be wanted in Coventry, I congratulate myself, for the same and other reasons, as being again hopelessly vitiated by what I have now resolved to call the dime and cash diamond fallacy. In his talked-off confession, which recently met with such a leonine uproar on its escape after its confinement, "Why am I not born like a gentleman, and why am I now so speakable about my own eatables?" Feigenbaumblatt and Father, Budapest, 5688 A.M. wholeheartedly takes off his gabercoat and wig, honest draughty fellow, in his public interest, to make us see how though, as he says, by all's will, the inception and the descent and the inswell of man is temporarily wrapped in obscenity, looking through at these accidents with the faroscope of television. This nightlife instrument needs still some subtractional betterment in the readjustment of the more refrangible angles to the squeals of his hypothesis on the outer tin sides. I can easily believe heartily in my own most spacious immensity, as my own house and microbomost cosm, when I am reassured by ratio that the cube of my volumes is to the surface of their subjects as the sphericity of these globes. I am very pressing for a parliamentary motion this term which, under my guidance, would establish the deleteriousness of decorousness in the morbidization of the modern man-about-woman type. Is to the ferocity of Farinelli's vacuum. I need not anthropologize for any unintentional. I must here correct all that school of Neo-Italian or Paleo-Parisian schola of tinkers and spanglers who say I'm wrong persecute out of Revolskin from Romantis I want to be. Downtrodden on my foes. Professor Levi Brolo, F.D., of Sexaweiman Eitlenaki finds, from experiments made by Hin with his Nuremberg eggs in the one hands and the watch's Kunnaldrun upon the oven, though it is ostensibly a case of Ketz Robolians cooling the Pope's back, because the number of square faiths in weekly circulation will not be appreciably augmented by the nother slogging of my cupular clothes. What the romantic in rags pines after, like all tontompions haunting crevices for a deadbeat escapement, and what het importunes are mitlied for in a Cornish with the mortadar thala taradition, is the poorest common unguardient waste of time. His ever-present toes are always in retaliation out through his overpast boots. Hear him squawk! Take heed to that loose swallower, how he bolo the bat! Tyro a torre! When Moleki won the couple of colds, When we were stripping in number 3, I would like the neat drop that would malt in my mouth, but I fail to see when. I am purposely refraining from expounding the obvious fallacy as to the specific gravitates of the two deglutables implied, nor to the lapsus liquor associated with the royal gorge through students of mixed hydrostatics and pneumodipsics will after some difficulties grapple away with my monungs. Mirdineller, as old Marcellus Cambrianus puts his. But on Professor Llewellys ap Bryler's F.D., Ph. Doctor's showings, the plea, if he pleads, is all pot and robbage on a melodiontic scale, since his man's when is no other man's quandor. Mine, thank you. While, for aught I care for the contrary, the all is where in love as war, and the plain where me arts soar, you'd aisy rouse a thunder from, and where I cling true, 'tis there I climb tree, and where innocent looks best. Pick! There's holly in his eyes. As my explanations here are probably above your understandings, Lattle Bratons, though as augmentatively uncomparison as Cadwan, Cadwallan, and Cadwallaner, I shall revert to a more expletive method which I frequently use when I have to sermo with muddle-cross pupils. Imagine for my purpose that you are a squad of urchins, sniffly-nosed, gosling-necked, clothy-headed, tangled in your lacings, tingled in your pants, et cetera et cicero. And you, Bruno Nowlin, take your tongue out of your inkpot. As none of you knows Javanese, I will give all my easy free translation of the old fabulist's parable. Boy Minor, take your head out of your satchel. Odi, Joe Peters, exoti facts. The mooks and the gripes. Gentis and lightymen, full stoppers and semicolonials, hybrids and lobbards. Eins within a space, and a weary wide space it wast, ir wohnt a mooks. The wansomeness wast all too lonely, urchin seats like, brody orval, and the mooks he would a walking go. My hood, cries Anthony Romeo. So one grand summer evening, after a great morning and his good supper of gammon and spittish, having flabelled his eyes, pilioled his nostrils, vaticanated his ears, and palliumed his throats, he put on his impermeable, seized his impugnable, harped on his crown, and stepped out of his immobile de rue albo, so called because it was chock full of master plasters and had bourgeoisly little gardens strewn with cascadas, pentacosticas, orthodox, and currycombs, and set off from Ludstown a spasso to see how badness was badness in the weirdest of all principal ways. As he set off with his father's sword, his lancia spezata, he was girded on, and with that between his legs and his turkeys, our once and only bride spear, he clanked, to my clinking, from Vitos to Threetop, every inch of an immortal. He had not walked over a pinchad pair of parsecs from his asylum when at the turning of the Shinshon lantern near St. Bowery's without his walls he came, seconding to the 1/1 of the proposies, amnis limnia permanent, upon the most unconsciously boggy-looking stream he ever locked his eyes with. Out of the Collians it took a rise by daubing itself neunen. It looked little, and it smelt of brown, and it thought in narrows, and it talked show shallow, and as it ran it dribbled like any lively pearlet easy. My, me and me, little down dream, don't I love thee? And, I declare, what was there on the yonder bank of the stream that would be a river, parched on a limb of the olum, bolt downright, but the gripes? And no doubt he was fit to be dried, for why had he not been having the juice of his times? His pips had been nearly all drowned on him. His pulps were charging odours every older minute. He was quickly forgetting the dresser's disdain on the fly-leaf of his frones, and he was quietly forgiving the bailiff's distrain on the brook side of his cul de pompe. In all his spacious heavings, as belived by Optimus Maximus, the mooks had never seen his Dubville brooder on low so nigh to a pickle. Adrian, that was the mook's naus assumptionum, stuck still vis-a-vis to the gripes in an excesit of arregnation. But all mooks must to moodint much as all roots, austere ways or waster sways, in roaming run through room. Hic sore a stone, singularly illud, and on hoc stone satyr sat hook sate, which it filled quite preposterously, and by acclamatation to its fullest justatorium, and whereupon, with his infallible encyclicling upon his allolabel, Diopetriarch of the Wowist, and the athemist sprinkled pederect he always walked with, Deuce did it, cheek by jowl with his fisherman's blag, belua triumphans, his every way added to wallet's collection, for ye longer he lived, ye broader he bethought of it, the fetter, the sum and the hall it cost. He looked the first and last Michael-like likeness of Quartus the Fifth and Quintus the Sixth and Sixtus the Seventh, giving all-night sitting to Leo the 45th. Good appetite us, Sir Mooks. How do you do it? Cheeped the Gripes in a wary wiggy Magdalenian voice, and the jackasses all within bowl laughed and brayed for his intentions, for they knew their sly toad Lowry now. I am rarumominum blessed to see you, my dear master. Will you not perhaps tell me everything, if you are pleased, Sanity? All about Uln and Lithiel and Ulsal Ullinal, about On and Lysius? Nay? Think of it, O Miss Rindimist Retemptor. Gripes! Rats! Bellowed the Mooks most telesphorously, the Conscianator, and the Sissimoses and the Zosimuses and the Robinhouses quailed to hear his tordino at all, for you cannot wake a silken nose out of a horse or. Blast yourself and your anathemy inferioribus! No, hang you for an animal rural! I am superbly in my supremest poncif. Abase you, baldy queens. Gather behind me, satraps. Rots! I am till infinity obliged with you, bowed the Gripes, his wine having gone to his pulpery head. I am still always having a wish on all my extremities. By the watch, what is the time, Passe? Figure it, the pining peaver, to a mooks! Ask my index, mund my Achilles, swell my oblum, wash up my naze serene, answered the mooks, rapidly by turning Clement, Urban, Eugenius, and Celestian in the foremost of good roguery humours. Quota whore, that is quite about what I came on my missions with my intentions laudabelter to settle with you, Barbaros. Let Thor be Orlog, let Pauline be Irene, let you be Beaton, and let me be Los Angeles. Now measure your length. Now estimate my capacity. Well, Sour? Is this space of our couple of hours two-dimensional for you, temporizer? Will you give you up? Como? Fuertit? Sancta Pacientia! You should have heard the voice that answered him, Cuya Voicelina. I was just thinking upon that, Swiss Mooksy, but for all the rhyme on my raisins, if I cannot make my submission, I cannot give you up, the Gripes whimpered from nethermost of his wan hope. I shall also bound be whistled out too, says it. My tumble, Loudy Bullocker, is my own. My felicity is too fit in one stockend, and my special in excelsis the belowing things ab ove. But I will never be abler to tell your honoriousness. Here he near lost his limb. Though my corked father was but a pseudo-waiter, whose o'clock you are. Incredible! Well, hear the inevitable. Your temple, sus incredibro, semper ex communicam ambisumers, to Gurios in new robe or to Curios in ashes. Novarum, my creature, blivend blivis. My building space in Leonine City is always to let to lion-like men, the mooks in a most consisterous allocution, pontifically with immediate jurisdiction constantinently concluded. What a crammer for the shape-rocked Gripes! And I regret to proclaim that it is out of my temporal to help you from being killed by inches. What a thrust! As we first met each other nowhere so early. Poor little sow-sieved sub-squashed Gripes. I begin to feel contemption for him. My side, thank Decretals, is as safe as Motherer's houses, he continued, and I can seen from my holy dome what it is to be wholly sane. Union jock and be joined to yoke. Perisis, Tusaith, Crucicrux, belongs to him who parises himself. And there I must leave you subject for the pressing. I can prove that against you, wait a momentum, mine good enemy, or Cospel's not our star. I bet you this dozen odd, this voluminous dozen odd. Quos primus, but 'tis bitter to compute my knowledge's fructos of. Tomes. Elevating, to give paint to his blick, his jewelled pederact to the all-misty Sulong, he lucky-struck blue-eyed out of a few should-be Saint-Gelons, a cloister of starabouts over maples, a Luciolis in Teresa Street, and a stop sign before Sophie Barrett's. He gathered together the old docents of his volumes, Gresk, Latin, and Russicroxian, onto the laps of his prolegs, into umfoth one scuppered, and sat about his wider prof. He proved it well who unearthed dry and dry-sick times, and vermilmo, to says, to the extinction of Niklaus altogether. Niklaus Lopsius having been the once Gripes' pop-wheeled nimbun.
By Nuclerius and Inexagoras and Mumpson and Thompson.
By Erasmus and by Arminius, by Anacletus the Jew and by Malachi the Augurer and by the Capon's collection, and after that, with Chickie's gelatine and Aldebrandi's formulon, he reproved it altogether when not in that order sundering in some different order, alter 330 and 100 times by the binomial diagram and the Penic walls and the Ind, the Inkelspiel legends and the rule of the hoop and the blessings of expedience and the Jogicants of Pontius Pilax and all the mummy scripts in sick boxes juncrum and the chapters for the cunning of the chapters of the conning fox by tale. While that Muxius with prepossession and with pro-precession, duplicitly and duplicitly, was promulgating ipso fax and sad contras, this rascally Gripos, he had almost succeeded in monophysicing his ill subordinates. But Asophulas he had caught his base Simenoias sarchnectiers to combustionate upon the syllipses of his aspilotes and the ekperusers of his hagion numax to synerethatize with the breadchestviousness of his sweetovular dusos, so farfully the logarthods of his sacularies were found at variance with the synoodles of his somapulium, and his babskist nepogracimost got the hoof from his filioquus.
After 1,000 yaws, O Gripes con my sheepskins, yaw will be blind to the world,
inscade Mooks the Pious. After 1,000 yours, answered Gripes the Gregory, be the goat of Machammods, yours may be still, O Mooks, more bothered.
Us shall be chosen as the first of the last by the electress of Vale Hollow,
observed the Mooks nobly,
for par the unicum of elegiacs. Us am in our stabulary, and that is what Ruby and Roby fall for, blissum.
The pills, the nasal wash, Yardleys, the army man cut, as British as Bond Strict, and as straight cut as when that broken-arched traveller from New Zealand. We, confused the Gripes limply, shall not even be the last of the first, we hope, when oust are visitated by the veiled horror. And, he added, me are relying entirely, see the 43rd of Elizabeth, on the weightiness of Mir's breath. Puff it.
Unsightbird in Bolsher, relentless foe to social and business success.
Arahelan, it might have been a happy evening, but... And they vituperated each other, canis et culuber, with the wildest ever wielded since Tariestinus lashed Pissus Faltium.
Unicorn,
ungulant,
uvuloid,
uskipeak, and Bullfolly answered volleyball. Nuvoletta, in her light dress, spun of Sistine shimmers, was looking down on them, leaning over the banisters and listening all she childishly could. How she was brightened when shoulder-ups in his globering hockskied his welkin-stuck, and how she was overclused when knees-knobs on his wivel was make-acting such a pulse of himself. She was alone. All her nubid companions were asleeping with the squirrels. Their miver, Mrs. Moonen, was off in the first quarter scrubbing the back steps of number 28. Vuver, that scanned. He was up in Norwood's soca parlour, eating oceans of Voking's blemish. Nuvoletta listened as she reflected herself, though the heavenly one with his constellatria and his emanations stood between, and she tried all she tried to make the mooks look up at her, but he was far too adioptochously far-seeing, and to make the Gripes hear how coy she could be, though he was much too schismatically auricular about his inns to heed her. But it was all miles vapour moist. Not even her faint reflection, Nuvolutia, could they talk their noses off for their minds with impetrified fate and bungless curiosity, were conclaved with Heliogoblius and Commodus and Enobarbarus and whatever the Cardinal Dickens they did, as their dramprock of papers and bookstubs said. As if that was their spiration. As if theirs could duiperate her queendom. As if she would be third party to search on search proceedings. She tried all the winsome, wansome ways her four winds had taught her. She tossed her sfumastelliasinous hair like La Princesse de la Petite Bretagne, and she rounded her mignon's arms like Mrs. Cornwallis West, and she smiled over herself like the beauty of the image of the pose of the daughter of the Queen of the Emperor of Ireland, and she sighed after herself as were she born to bride with Tristis Tristior Tristissimus. But Sweet Madeline. She might fair as well have carried her daisy's worth to Florida. For the mooks, a dog-mad aconite, were not amused, and the gripes, a double-boused Catholic, wis painfully obliviscent. I see, she sighed. There are minner. The sis of the wisp of the sigh of the soft zing at the stir of the vergros o arundo of a long one and medias reeds, and shades began to glitter along the banks, greepsing, dusk unto dusk, and it was as glooming could be in the waste of our peaceable worlds. Metamnesia was ulcinum coloriform brune, citerior spien and uland, inimeros and innumeros. The mooks had a sound eyes right, but he could not all hear. The gripes had light ears left, yet he could but ill see. He ceased, and he ceased, tongue and treat, and it was never so ever so dusk of both of them. But still Moo thought on the deeps of the unts he would profoundeth come the morks, and still gry field of the scripes he would asipe by grace if he had luck in opes. Oh, how it was dusk, from Valle Maria to Gracia Plania, dormimost echo, adieu, adieu. It was so dusk that the tears of night began to fall, first by ones and twos, then by threes and fours, at last by fives and sixes of sevens, for the tired ones were waking, as we weep now with them. Oh, 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 par la pluie. Then there came down to the thither bank a woman of no appearance. I believe she was a black with chills at her feet, and she gathered up his hoariness and the mooks metamorphally where he was spread, and carried him away to her invisible dwelling, that's heights, aquile repos, for he was the holy sacred solemn and push-up spit of her bishop's apron. So you see, the mooks he had reason as I knew and you knew and he knew all along. And there came down to the hither bank a woman to all important, though they say that she was comely, spite the cold in her heed. And, for he was as like it as blow it to a hawker's hank, she plucked down the gripes, torn panicky autotone, in angle from his limb, and carried away its beatitubes with her to her unseen shelling. It is de rore coeli. And so the poor gripes got wrong, for that is always how a gripes is, always was and always will be, and it was never so thoughtful of either of them. And there were left now an only elm tree and but a stone, pulled with Paitros, Sierrobet Sol. Oh, yes, and Novaletta, alas. Then Novaletta reflected for the last time in her little long life, and she made up all her myriads of drifting minds in one. She cancelled all her engosments. She climbed over the banistars. She gave a childy cloudy cry. Nuée! Nuée! A light dress fluttered. She was gone, and into the river that had been a stream. For 1,000 of tears had gone on her and come on her, and she was stout and stuck on dancing, and her muddied name was Mrs. Liffey. There fell a tear, a singlet tear, the loveliest of all tears. I mean for those Cry Love Fables fans who are keen on the pretty common-face sort of thing you meet by Hope Harrods. For it was a leap tear. But the river tripped on her by and by, lapping as though her heart was brook. Why, where, oh where, I's so silly to be flowing, but I no canna stay.
No applause, please. Bast! The Romscotch nether shaker will go round your circulation in Diodursos. Alla boy, Major. I'll take your reactions in another place after Thames. Nolan Brown, you may now leave the classroom. Joe Peters, Fox. As I have now successfully explained to you, my own natural-born rations, which are even in excise of my vulture brain, ensure me that I am a mouth's more deserving case by a genius. I feel in sympathos for my ever-devoted friend and half-a-loaf unwashed, Nakos Nokovich. Darling Jim, darling small fox, hush you. I could love that man like my own amble for being so baily clever, though he's a nawful curious and I must slav to methodiousness. I want him to go and live like a Theobald in charge of the Night Brigade on Tristan de Cunha, Isle of Man Overboard, where he'll make number 106 and be near inaccessible. The meeting of mahoganies, be the waves, rementious me that this exposed site, though it pines for an umbrella of its own and needs a shelter belt of the true service sort to keep its bulls clean. The weeping beaches, Pisia and Tilia, are in a wild state about it, ought to be classified, as Cricket but Willem and his 2 nurserymen advisers suggested, under genus inexhaustible, when we refloat upon Old the Butternut, Sweet Gum and Manna Ash etc., which is so purulent there, as if there was hawthorns in Curragh which ought to look as plain as lodgepole to anybody until we are introduced to that pintacotta of Verni Rubius, where the Diodarte is pinctured for us in a pure stand, which we do not doubt has a habit of doing, but without those self-sown seedlings, which are a species of proof that the largest individual can occur at or in an olifion such as East Connahillock, where it mixes with Fulth Acacians and common sallies and is tender. Vox populus, as we say in Hickory Hockory, and I wish we had some more glasses of arbor vitae. Why rot by the roadside of On over Alum Pot? Alderman Whitebeaver is Dactyl. He ought to go away for a change of ideas, and he'd have a world of things to look back on. Do, sweet Daniel. If I weren't a Jones in myself, I'd elect myself to be his dolphin in the wilds below, because he is such a barefooted robber with my super socks pulled over his face, which I publicked in my best back garden for the latification of said Rodromites and to the irony of the stars. You will say it is most un-English, and I shall hope to hear that you will not be wrong about it. But I further, feeling a bit husky in my truths. Will you please come over and let us murmur murgeously to each's other down below our vices? I am underheard by old Bilfaust. Wilsh is full of kirks. The cool skittle is Philip Deblinite. Mr. Whist is thereover behind the want-not. Wilsh and Whist are as thick of thins udder as Faust on the Deblinite. Scuno shuto estas praeter latapiso malgrada. Lelges al si in sia chambro. Kelkelforge functas. Kelkelforge thrumpas sultrorge. Hodien kill vifartes. Mia negra singero? And from the point of fun where I am trying to arrive you at, they are on all four as foible-minded as you can feel they are fable-bodied. My heeders will recoil with a great leisure how at the outbreak before trespassing on the space question where even Michelangelines have fooled to dread, I proved to mind self as to your satisfaction how his abject all through, the quick quid of Professor Siondolone's too frequently hypothecated Bettlermensch, is nothing so much more than a mere cash dime, however genteel he may want ours, if we please. I am speaking to us in the second person. For to this graded intellectuals, dime is cash, and the cash system. You must not be allowed to forget that this is all contained, I mean the system, in the dog marks of Origen on Sporios. Means that I cannot now have or not have a piece of cheaps in your pocket at the same time and with the same manners as you can now not have or half the cheek a piece I've in mind unless Burrus and Cassius have not or not have simultaneously disentangled themselves, sell dear to sold there, once in the dairy days of by and by. Burrus, let us like to imagine, is a genuine prime, the real choice, full of natural grace, the mildest of milk stoffs, yet unbeaten as a razorcide, and, of course, obsoletely unadulterous, whereat Cassius is obversely the revise of him, and in fact not an ideal choose by any meals, though the better man of the two is meltingly addicted to the more casual side of the arrivalist case, and, let me say it at once, as zealous over him as is passably he. The same home and history seeks and hidepins which we used to be reading for a pre-purgatory, hot, short, till Duddy shut the shopper up, and Muti, poor Muti, brought us our poor suppy. In Estius and Oliosus and Celius Voluntilis and Petrus Papricus, our old party quite united round the slat bowl at Commons. Farrar Salamos himself, and that sprog of a Pedersel and his sprig of thyme, and a dozen of the Murphy buds, and a score and more of the hot young capers, and Latutia in her green sleeves, and you two and me three, twinsome bibs but handsome eights, like Shakespeare and eggs. But there's many a split pretext bowl and jowl, and stop screwing that cork, short! To understand this as well as you can, feeling how backward you are in your down-to-ground benches, I have completed the following arrangement for the coarse use of stools, and if I don't make away with you, I'm beyond Caesar out nullist. The older Caesars, tyrants, regicide is too good for you, become unbearable from age. The compositor of the farce of Dustiny, however, makes a thumpledrum mistake by letting off this pianoforte effect as his first act, that is where the Duke comes in. Having been sort of nine-knived and truly removed, this soldier, author, Batman for all his commentoriism, is just another of those soft-seized bubbles who never quite got the Sandhurst out of his eyes, so that the champagne he draws for us is as flop as a pancreag.
The twin Freer tripes are billed to make the reappearance as the new neck and knife nicknotes on the deserted Champ de Portes. A most cursory reading into the Persic Aurelian's history shows us how Phonomagulae picked up that proper numen out of a collection of prefixes, though to the Permian and Canasher, the Caucasian offspring of this son of a cook is as satin as there's a tub in Tobolsk. Ostiak dea Vogel Marina! But that I deny the fact of 1 ton to West Point, I could paint you to that butter. Cheese it, if you had some wash. Mordve live. Oh, min non und sins. Why the case is as inessive and impulsive as Curzum hands. Their interlocutive is comprovocative just as every hazy hates to having a has-been in her nose. Cassius may bethink himself of a thought a cavalier, but Burrus has the richly rounded head that goes best with tough-thinking defensive fideism. He has the lack of wisdom under every dent in his laughter, while the other follows omni vesi milki indeed my, laughing over the linens and weeping off the union. He hisn't the hay og, he lisn't the log. Puh. And each night sim Mrs. Mand he winks he had the seemagen. It was aptly and corrigidly stated, and it is royally needless for one ex unc leonum to say by whom, that his seeing-craft was that clarity as were the whole borough of Pottersburg to be avalanchhed over him, pitch patch he could still make out with his ogstrich the green mote in Ireland's eye. Let me sell you the full froth of Burrus when he were a younker. Here it is, and charming too, in 6x7s, a cleanly line, by the gods, a king off duty and a jaw forever. And what a cheery ripe outlook. Good help me, Deus vi Deus. If I were to speak my whole mouthful to Aranam about it, you should call me the urmust element in your midst of fame. Eat ye up, hit ye up, sings the Soman in the psalm. Potrum et melcomedet ut sciat reprobare malum et elegere bonum. This, of course, also explains why we were taught to play in the childhood. Der Heinzli ist ein Butterbrot, mein Butterbrot, und Koibe ist dein Stinkenkot. Ja. This, in fact, just to show you, is Cassius, the Bruther Scutch or pure Tyron, a hole or two, the high stinks aforfelt and angio-prigging worms. She's ugh! You complain, and I must say you are not wholly in the wrong. Thus we cannot escape our likes and mislikes, exiles or ambushers, beggar and neighbor, and this is where the dime show advertisers advance their temporal relief plea. Let us be tolerant of antipathies. Nex quovis burro non fit mercatius. I am not hereby giving my final endorsement to the learned ignorance of the cousinist philosophism in which old Nicholas pegs it down that the smarter the spin of the top, the sounder the span of the bottom. What the worthy old Abergerneste ought to have meant was, the more stolidly immobile in space appears to me the bottom which is presented to use in time by the top premobilisk, etc. And I shall be misunderstood if understood to give an unconditional signquam to the heroicized whereabouts of the Nolanus theory, or, at any rate, of that substrate of apart from history where the Theophil swears that on principial he was the pointing start of his Ogios by comparison, and that whiles eggs will fall cheapened all over the world, the beer will be dear on the brae. Now, while I am not out now to be taken up as unintentionally recommending the Silkeborg Tyron Dynamon machine for the more economical heliotrolysis of these ambodipathies until I can find space to look into it myself a little more closely first, I shall go on with my decisions after having shown to you in good time how both products of our social stomach, the excellent Dr. Burrowman, I noticed by the way from his amended food theory, has been carefully digesting the very wholesome criticism I helped him to in my Princeps edition, which is also much to the cud, are mutually polarized, the incompatibility of any delusional acting as ambivalent to the fixation of his pivotism. Positing, as above, two males pools, the one the pictor of the other and the ombre the scotia of the one, and looking wantingly around our undistributed middle between males, we feel we must wastefully want a female to focus, and on this stage there pleasantly appears the cowrie-maid Im, whom we shall often meet below, who introduces herself upon us at some precise hour which we shall again agree to call absolute zero, or the babbling pomp of Platonism. And so, like that former son of a Kish who went up and out to found his farmer's ashes, we come down home gently on our own turnabout asses to meet margarine. We now romp through a period of pure lyricism of shame-bred music.
Technologically, let me say, the appetizing entry of this subject on a full chest of Vields is plumply putting the cart before their hers. Evidenced by such words in distress as, I cream for thee, sweet margarine, and the more hopeful, O Margarina, still in the bowl is left a lump of gold. Correspondents, by the way, will keep on asking me what is the correct garnish to serve drishings with. Tansy sauce. Enough. The pun-breaking pathos of the first of these shoddy pieces reveals it as a cautious effort. Burris's bit is often used for a toast. Criniculture can tell us very precisely indeed how and why this particular streak of yellow silver first appeared on, not in, the bowl, that is to see, the human head, bald, black, bronze, brown, brindled, bettereved or bronchomanged, where it might be usefully compared with an earwig on a full bottom. I am offering this to Signoria Cuticula, and I intend to take it up and bring it under the notice of Herr Harlin by way of diverting his attentions. Of course, the unskilled singer continues to pervert our wiser ears by subordinating the space element, that is to sing the aria, to the time factor, which ought to be killed, il tempore. I should advise any unborn singer who may still be among my heeders to forget her temporal diaphragm at home, the best thing that could happen to it, and attack the roulade with a swift corporal de glottide to the lug, though Mace, I will insist, was reclined from overdoing this, his recovery often being slow. And then, on the third dead beat, to close her eyes and open her earth and see what spice I may send her. How? Cease thee, Kentucky! I fain would be solo. Arouse thee, my valor, and save for e'er my troubadour. I shall have a word to say in a few yards about the acoustic and architectural management of the tone hall, but as ours is a vivarius where one plant's brief is a longer planner's bison and you may not care for organ, it will be very convenient for me for the emolument to pursue Burris and Cassius for a rung or two up their isoscellating biangle. Every admirer has seen my goulash of Marge. She is so like the sister, you don't know, and they both dress alike. Which I titled The Very Picture of a Needless Woman, which in the presence ornates our national crit stunt. This genre of portraiture of changes of mind in order to be truly terse should evoke the bush soul of females, so I am leaving it to the experienced victim to complete the general suggestion by the mental addition of a wallopy bound, or, should the zoological zealot prefer it, a congaroo teal. The hat boxes which composed Romba, Lady Trabazond, Marge in her excelsis, also comprise the climactogram up to which B and C may fondly be imagined ascending and are suggestive of gentlemen's spring modes. These modes carrying us back to the superimposed clay layers of Eocene and Pleistocene formation and the gradual morphological changes in our body politic which Professor Ibahi Ahuri of Philodesponis, whose blue butter bust I have just given his coup de grace to, neatly names aboit asaprisis. The boxers, if I may break the subject gently, are worth about 4p per box, but I am inventing a more patent process, foolproof and pre-perfect. I should like to ask that Sherlock Holmes person who is out for removing the roofs of our criminal classics by what deductio ad demonum he hopes de tacto to detect anything unless he happens of himself, movable tacto, to have a slade off. After which they can be reduced to a fragment of their true crust by even the youngest of Margies if she will take place to be seated and smile, if I please. Now there can be no question about it, either that I, having done as much, have quite got the size of that demilitary young female, we will continue to call her Marge, whose types may be met with in any public garden, wearing a very dressy affair, known as an Ethel of instep length and with a real fur, reduced to 3/9, and muffin cap to tone. They are angel skin this fall, ostentatiously hemming apologetically over the shirtness of some sweet garment, when she is not sitting on all the free benches avidly reading about it, but evidently on the lookout for him, or so thrilled about the best-dressed dolly pram and beautiful elbow competition, or at the movies swallowing sobs and blowing big biscuits over Child Chaplin's latest, or on the verge of the gutter with some bobbed hair brief-rocked baby-ma's toddler. The Smiths now keep 2 domestics and aspire to 3 male ones, a shover, a bootlegger, and a secretary, held hostage at arm's length, teaching his infant majesty how to make waters worse.
I am closely watching Master Pules, as I have reasons to suspect from my post that her little man is a secondary school teacher under the boards of education, a voted disciple of Infantulis who is being utilized thus publicly by the Sedocente Infanta to conceal her own more masculine personality by flaunting frivolous finery over men's inside clothes, for the femininity of that totemulier will always lack the musculink of a virum. My solutions for the proper parturience of matres and the education of micturious mites must stand over from the moment till I tackle this tickler hussy for occupying my attentions. Margarina, she's very fond of Burris, but a lick and a lack, she very fond of tea. The important influence exercised on everything by this East Asian import has not been till now fully flavoured, though we can comfortably taste it in this case. I shall come back for a little more say farther on. A Cleopatrician in her own right, she at once complicates the position while Burrus and Cassius are contending for her mystery by implicating herself with an elusive Antonius, a wop, who would appear to hug a personal interest in refined cheese of all shades at the same time as he wags an antomine art of being rude like the boor. This Antonius Burrus Cassius group triad may be said to equate the qualis equivalent with the older so-called talis on talis, one just as quantly as in the hyperchemical economentarchy the tantum ergens illuminate the quantum urge so that eggs is to weigh as way is to zed like your golf child's abe boob caddy. And this is why any simple Fullerdolphus of a fool you like to dress, an Athamistude Lotonian, X-legged Fatricite, may be awfully green to one side of him and fruitfully blue on the other, which will not screen him, however, from appealing to my grope-searching eyes through the strongholds of my acropole as a boosted, blasted, bleating, blatant, bloating, blasphemous idiot who cannot tail a bomb from a pineapple when he steals one and one-up-sing his salmon with the Kong in our gregational pom-poms with the canting crew. No! Topsman to your tarpea. This thing, Mr. Abbey, is nefund. And taking off sootstuffs and alkalic matters, I hope we can kill time to reach the salt, because there's some force glass nutric acerts bittering in the saltpeter for you to plump your pottage in. The thundering legion has stormed Olymp that it end. 12 tabular times till now I have edicted it. Miras genius to Carius Cassius. Moritur te salutat. My famous races run, so let democracy take the highmost. Abraham Trippier. Those old diligences are quite out of date. Read next answer. I'll beat you so lone. Big-tempered. Why not take direct action? See previous reply. My unchanging word is sacred. The word is my wife. To exponse and expound. To vind and to venerate. And may the curlews crown our nuptias. Till breath us depart. Wamin. Beware would you change with my years. Be as young as your grandmother. The ringman in the wrong shop put the right words by the rote order. Ubi lingua nunco passit, ibi fas, adversus hostum semper sac. She that will not feel my full moon, let her peal to thee as the hoyden and the impudent. That mon that hath no Moses in his soul, nor is awed by conquests of words law, who never with himself was fed, and leaves his soil to lave his head, when his hopes in his high-lows from whisking his woe. If he came to my preach, a proud purse-broken ranger, when the heavens were welling, the spite of their spout, to beg for a bite in our bark no stanger, would meself and Mac Jeffet, four in hand, foot him out? Aye! Were he my own breast brother, my doubled with love and my single-biased hate, were we bred by the same fire and signed with the same salt, and we tapped from the same master and robbed the same till, were we tucked in the one bed and bit by the one flea, Homo gallant and himicap noise, Bum and dingo, Jack by churl, though it broke my heart to pray it, still I'd fear I'd hate to say... 12. Sacar esto? Answer. Semos somos.